you don't know what you don't know, right? Like you think, oh, engagement is great, right? Like you start seeing the numbers climb and you're like, yeah, people are using it. And then it sort of hits a tipping point. And you're like, oh, people are using it.
Yeah.
For everything.
Hey everyone, I'm Jen Santos, and this is Mayhem and Method, where event pros tell the real story of what happened and what it reveals about how events actually work. Welcome back to another episode of Mayhem and Method, and I'm here today with two very special longtime colleagues, Marty Choate and Josh Vanderkaal, who are now two of the co-founders of Intrivium. Thank you guys so much for being here with me today.
Oh,
Thanks
it's
for
our
having
pleasure.
us.
Yeah. I appreciate the invite.
What is one of your favorite venues to work and why?
I think my favorite venue is probably the tobacco, I think the Stockyards in London, the tobacco docks. I like that quite a bit. It's not a very large venue. Tableau was one of the first places that did the tobacco docks. You're not going to get a large, like Fortune 50 event space in there, but I think it was able to host up to, I think, like 20,000 people still though in the tobacco docks. So that was kind of nice, and it was unique. It was kind of one of a kind. It didn't feel like a conference space. It was all of the things that had people running into their meetings instead of just walking slowly. So I think it helped kind of build up the raving fans that Tableau had back in the day.
That's cool. Marty, do you have a favorite?
I'm not going to go as unique. I'm going to go for the general conference one, and the old San Diego Conference Center. I have some
Interesting.
fond memories. It was one of my first venues that I went to, and I loved the city around there and the how you could walk and the restaurants, and so it has fond memories for me of being one of my first places that I went to when I started events.
That's awesome. Okay, so let's get into the meat of the conversation. So as a quick recap, you're going to tell me kind of what your disaster story is, where things had gone wrong on site, kind of wrap it up in a couple of minutes, and then we'll walk through kind of what happened before what happened, talking about kind of like human behavior, because people are weird. And we're just going to kind of walk through that process. So who would like to tell the story?
I'm going to let Josh tell the story because it is
Excellent.
exactly the same experience that you and I experienced on a totally different show.
Excellent.
Well, I think at that particular show we had not introduced any sort of gates, permissions, that sort of thing. And when we opened up meetings and messages, which was a brand new feature to this particular venue and this particular client, they went crazy. And the people that went crazy are the ones that normally go crazy for that type of feature, which are the sponsors and the exhibitors. And the sponsors and the exhibitors love that feature so much to the point where, and this was pre-bot days, but you wouldn't know it by the amount of meeting requests that went out and messages that went out. The number of attendees, I think it was like 80 to 100,000 or so attendees. And they were sending multiple messages to every single one of the attendees over the course of the 100,000 or so attendees, to the point where attendees didn't want to use the app anymore because they were just getting inundated with notifications. Their calendar was getting full of invites like galore, to the point where they couldn't even see some of their more normal business meetings. And so the complaints came in like crazy. So the sponsors and exhibitors just really kind of abusing the system to the point where the attendees were shutting things off, turning things out. Our host was coming over and saying, "Hey, we need to do something about this." And up until that point, we were almost oblivious to it, because in the background, it was nearly catastrophic to us. It wasn't as bad as 2014 when the servers in Texas had called us up and saying, "Hey, you're shutting the whole server farm down." But it was near to that point, and we were sweating whether or not it was gonna tip the system over a little bit. So
Marty and I had a very similar event, I think roughly in the same time frame, where we had exhibitors that would hire temps that would come in, literally like log in, put them at their computer, logged in as the attendee, and their whole job was to literally message the entire attendee directory. Been there, done that. So,
Multiple times. They
yes.
would send messages every day. Like they would just get to the end of the list and then they would start over again and start sending messages to attendees.
Ugh.
It was
Yeah. And
crazy.
then and then the attendees stop using the app, which I'm assuming like the events I work on, it's always like, let's send out these push notifications, which then nobody is getting because nobody's using the app anymore. Like, so you didn't know, right? Because it takes a while for these things generally to filter to the event tech team. But like, do you know what the attendee impact was of all this besides people just being annoyed? Like, did you see a noticeable drop and were people not getting to the right places because they weren't getting notifications? Like, what kind of was the on-site impact other than annoyance?
So prior to this happening, we probably had like 80 or so percent of the people that were attending the event were logged in using the mobile app, which was pretty good. We at that
Yeah.
time, 60% of people using the mobile app was, hey, we're succeeding in reaching out to them and having them use the mobile app. Now it's, what is it, 95% or more people are on the app, but there were at that point it had dropped down to less than 40% of the people using the app, and it seemed like almost 100% of them asking for paper guides so they could get to where they needed to go for the sessions because they refused to use the app altogether. Let alone the fact, reaching out to all of the other kind of networking and interaction capabilities that the app had. So that was kind of interesting. It
Yeah.
definitely resulted in another one of those 5 a.m. Mornings where we had to introduce some measures to right the ship, so to speak.
Yeah. And how far into the event were you when this happened? Was this like day one sort of thing?
It was day zero.
Day zero.
Yeah. Um, which it bled into day one, and by the it was the uh, what is that, 5 a.m. after day one? So that technically is day two, is when when we introduced the fix to it. Fortunately, it was a 5 day
Yeah.
event, not a 2 day event. So um,
Good. Good.
But kind of the damage is done. So like
Yeah.
you've created this feeling of like, oh, I'm just gonna get spammed. And so
Mm-hmm.
like even when you do fix it after the fact, you've lost half of those people. Like they're not coming
Yeah.
back. They've
No.
opted out. They're like, this app sucks, this device sucks, whatever. The experience is not good. I'm never going to come back and use that. And so
Yeah.
there, even if you do fix it, it's more than I think even just the next event. Like people just remember that of
oh yeah.
bad experience here. Why would I turn on notifications? There's no value in this.
It's partly why we encourage people to change the look and the feel of their app on year two, because year one you're surviving, year two you're thriving. But if it looks the same as year one, then people aren't going to pick it up again, especially if they've had those kind of issues.
Yeah. No, totally. I was saying I saw on LinkedIn this morning an article about somebody had said that, most of the apps only have a 20% adoption rate. And my first
Whoa.
response was, my apps have way higher adoption rate than that. It's a strategy problem, not an app problem, right? But in some cases, it actually is an app problem, right? When you have like these features that people don't want, I mean, you didn't say it dropped from 80, right? But I can imagine it dropped like from 80 like to 20% because people were like, no, I'm not here to just be abused, right? And they started
Right.
looking for alternate ways to navigate the event.
Yep, that's exactly right. It did
Yeah.
create a pretty new feature that we hadn't thought anything about, and the way that they introduced the feature, we were able to use again for a lot of our future clients. So the feature that we introduced was a pretty cool one. We said basically we're going to issue tickets to the sponsors and the exhibitors, and they'll have the ability to message 10 times over. And if anyone joins or responds to it, they get one of those tickets back. But if they use all 10, they're done, and they cannot message any attendees, which I think is better than not being able to message at all. Like, hey, this is a
Yeah.
valuable resource. Use it sparingly. Make sure that you're targeting who you want to speak with, and then go from there.
Yeah. So wait, were they physical tickets? Is that what you said?
Not physical tickets, just tickets that said, hey, you have 10 messages, 10 meeting requests that you can use, and then it
Yeah.
showed a count basically in the system. and it restored it if people responded. So on meeting requests, if someone accepted their meeting, or
Yep.
they sent a meeting request to the sponsor exhibitor, they get one of those tickets back. Which
Yeah. I've seen that. Like, I've seen different organizations starting to handle this differently, right? So it's like one client I worked with, it's like, well, exhibitors can be in, but they can't initiate any messaging, right? They can only be on the recipient end.
Yep.
And then I've seen other organizations, we put, like, I got a client right now, like, we put a cap in place. And so they have so many messages an hour and then so many messages a day. And then and we're like, okay, well, like, realistically, how many thoughtful messages or even semi-thoughtful messages can somebody do in an hour or a day? And we kind of put the cap at that because it stops the bots, which is a very real problem in 2026. And then it also just keeps people from doing what we've seen in the past, which is just like logging in and just copy paste. And now there's so many of these automations you can even do with phones, even when there's only a phone. I see this a lot on my mobile app projects where they just do some sort of like screen record and work with the bot. I don't actually know how that works, but a screen record with a bot and the bot just kind of goes in and does automation right on somebody's device. So it really slows that down, and I found that has worked extremely well.
We've even had some of the customers exploring the possibility of, or not just the possibility of, but they use it as an add-on. So if you want to be a premium sponsor with the ability to have 10 additional messages, then then you just add it to your package and you're off to the races, which is nice. It doesn't make the mobile app necessarily a overhead product only at the event.
Yeah. So when we think about how the attendee experience and how people kind of stop using the apps because nobody wants to be spammed all day long. So talk to me now about like your client's reaction to this and whether this was something that had been discussed ahead of time. Like, kind of walk me through that whole part of it.
Well, I think it was a perfect storm because it was a new feature for them, and it wasn't a new feature for us, but we hadn't had that sort of experience where we had bad players introduce, and we're gonna take advantage of the system. So that was the first time for us having someone take advantage of the system, and it was the first time them having a feature. I think that actually happens a lot more now, or certainly more prevalent, because you have most of the folks and our customers currently really don't have the years of experience and the problem and the pain that you encounter that kind of introduces these sorts of features, possibilities, and updates. So I think that's where it was a perfect storm back then. I think it's a regular occurrence currently with folks that are
I was just
setting.
thinking about this. It's interesting. One of our customers that just asked, said, we want our exhibitors not to be able to message attendees. We want attendees to be able to exhibit or to message exhibitors, and then the exhibitor can message the exhibitor only after they've
Yep.
messaged them. And we want
Yeah.
exhibitors to be able to message exhibitors. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is all left over from back in the day of all the spam.
Yes.
Instead of just putting in, hey, limits of what they can do for all, not just exhibitors, but for all, we now have gotten to the point that even our customers are like, oh, remember the days when the exhibitors were doing these bad behaviors?
Yeah.
And so we're still dealing with it to today.
Yeah. No, we totally are.
And I think sometimes we're doing it ourselves because in this particular instance, it was us coming back to them saying, hey, I think you want to put in some measures, and we introduced the idea of a ticketing system because that was our experience before. And they're like, well, I don't think we need anything that complicated. So this is the sort of system that we want because we recognize the possibility of bad players. So it came as a recommendation of us of like, could this happen in your events?
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, well, I don't know, we haven't done it before. So
I've got a client right now, and I was talking about, and we have this new feature. It's messaging moderation, and this is how it works. And they're like, well, why would we want to stop people? I'm like, okay, we need to take a step here. Like this is exactly why we would want this to happen. And they're like, oh yeah, but it's like you don't know what you don't know, right? Like you think, oh, engagement is great, right? Like you start seeing the numbers climb, and you're like, yeah, people are using it, and then it sort of hits a tipping point. And you're like, oh, people are using it.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah, exactly. So, what was the client's reaction afterwards?
It depended on who was on the team. So I would say that the executives were furious. Our sponsors or our hosts were understanding. Um, they booked us for the next year, and we had a much better system, and everything worked well, and we had features in there, and we thought of the gates and the permissions and that sort of thing. So I appreciated their level of understanding. Um, and the fact that they were able to see that, hey, here's a team that's willing to work with us, that when they do have problems, they're going to be responsive. And I think that's kind of key there, is that fortunately the folks that we worked with have been in events. They know that something's going to fail at some point in the event, and we just have to work our way around it.
Yeah. And that communication piece, I mean, that's absolutely critical, right? And we've seen that not work with vendors, and we have seen that work with vendors, and it really makes all the difference whether somebody's going to get a contract the next year or not. I mean, I think that people underestimate how important it is to explain, hey, yeah, we saw this, we screwed up, or something went as unplanned, right? Not even necessarily screwing up, because it's like you just don't know what you don't know a lot of times. And then you come in and you say, okay, this is how we're going to fix it. Your team was there till 5 a.m. fixing it. I think you said that. And so suddenly it's like, okay, like these guys, they're really willing to work with us. So let's give them a better shot. So then the $100,000 question is the next year, like what did your app adoption rates look like? Did it bounce back up again?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was back up to 80%. And it didn't go down. So that was the great part about that second year. So I think the other interesting thing, this is the only industry I know where you're providing a solution and a software platform to folks. And I've been in 6 different industries providing softwares for those different industries. But in the event industry, you have a problem like this, and your answer cannot be, although some people do use this as an answer and they don't last for very long, but it cannot be, we're not scoped for this, and that's a feature that we can accommodate it, but here's the cost associated to that. It's just, you need to make sure that everyone's there for the event success. And it wasn't just us, it was every other connecting system that had to make an update to how they were receiving the information also. So I think that was kind of the other difference there, is everyone's working together and everyone has to recognize that if they don't, the event won't be successful.
Yeah. Yep.
I think a big success of bringing it back up to the 80% too was really addressing with the attendees. Like, hey, we heard you. Like, there was an issue. Don't try to hide it. Don't like pretend like nothing happened. It's like, hey, we've put some things in place to better your experience and really be communicative. Communicate with with your attendees on the good, the bad, whatever it is, as long as you've addressed it, and that so they understand and they're willing to try it again. And I think attendees are open to that.
Yeah. And I've seen that too, right? The events that you and I worked on in the past, Marty, as well. It's like we had people, no, we're not going to use it because we don't want spamming. We put spam controls in place. And then the attendees that we wanted to be using it, they actually flocked back to the tool because they wanted what the tool had to offer. It's just that this bad feature, not even a bad feature, an uncontrolled feature, was weighing the rest of the good that came with the rest of the tool set.
Yeah.
Yep, I agree.
So
we did change the layout of the app so that no one recognized it as the app from the year before. In fact, I had an attendee that came up and said, I love the app this year. It's so much better. You should have seen the app from last year. It was crazy. And then they described all the problems that they had. And I said, boy, that sounds like a really rough year. I'm glad that you had a much better experience this year. I didn't tell them that it was the same app.
Same app.
But, yeah.
Yeah, and I experienced that too. Remember how many times they're like, this app stinks. This is the worst. And we just did a refresh on the design, exactly the same app. And all of our stakeholders were like, this is the most amazing app ever. Yep.
Seriously. so many times. They're like, oh my God, it's so gorgeous. It's not, last year was horrible. I'm like, it was the same app. Yeah. Yeah.
Exact same app.
Yep. Exactly. So last question for you. For that same event year, you said that, right, nobody wanted to use it. Did you manage to, because it was a 5-day event? I mean, was there comms that happened like during the course of the event to say, hey, you know what? We've addressed this issue. We've heard you. We've heard your feedback. Like, you did that with the client, but did you also do that, or did the client do that with their attendees to say that, hey, we invite you back in because we've resolved some issues we've been having? Did that happen?
It didn't, and I don't understand why they didn't send out the notifications. We definitely didn't see much of an improvement over the course. I think maybe we saw like a 10% bump at the most over the course of the next 3 days. I think a lot of folks don't use those notifications. I was just at an event this last week. They had the whole hotel, the entire venue's power was shut off. Elevators weren't able to be used. The no power in any of the rooms. Everything was shut off. I'm like, where are the backup generators? Not a single notification was sent out to the attendees. And I'm thinking, this is 9/11. Like, we're getting attacked. We were near DC, and I had no idea. So I was creating all kinds of stories about problems that might be happening in the venue. And all they had to do was send out a notification through the app. They ended up sending an email, which of course you're not going to get because who checks email while they're on site? But that's one thing. Like, take advantage of the notifications. Send it out. More information is better. Don't have people create stories that they're going to make up, because I think it's always going to be worse than anything that you could ever share, I think, in notifications.
Yeah. Well, but the challenge, if nobody's in the app, they're not going to get their notifications, my friend.
Well, they do with the Toast notification. I mean, unless they uninstall the app, they'll still get the notification.
True. Fair.
But I think, yeah.
Okay. That makes sense, yeah.
Which I suspect there were a few that did uninstall, but
yeah, I probably would have been one of those.
Same.
Well, I want to thank you both so much for taking your time to come and share your mayhem story with me that I know everybody in event land can relate to. I'd love to have you both take a minute and tell my audience where they can learn more about you guys, your work at Intrivium, any socials, sites that you want to share. I hand the platform over to you to wrap up.
Sure. You're happy to check us out at intrivium.com. It's probably the easiest place to reach us. We are publishing a new community here soon. You're welcome to reach out to us directly, either at Josh at Intrivium or Marty at Intrivium. And that is in Trivium, which is different than in Vitrium. I probably shouldn't have given the two different spellings there, but in Trivium. But in trivium.com, Josh and Marty, we're happy to take any emails or just hop on over to our website and reach out to us there too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
By the way, can I just say that I love the name Mayhem and Method, because I really think that method oftentimes doesn't come through before the mayhem. Like, it really is the mayhem first is what generates the method. You can what if things all to death, but usually it's the mayhem that generates the method. So love the name of this over here overall. Yeah. And in this case, it definitely was true. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's how we learn, right? Like, this industry, that is how we learn it all. It's almost all by, I'm not going to say failing, but by having mayhem episodes that we then put the method behind it to make it work in the future. And that's what makes a great event pro. So, and you guys are. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
Thanks for having us, Jen.
Thanks for listening in to another roller coaster someone else rode so you don't have to. If you enjoyed this conversation, please take a moment to rate, review, subscribe, and share so other event pros can find the show. Until next time, tame the mayhem.
Audiotocracy.